little Foxy, it's your birthday. Not for real, just for play. This is Cree Summer, and Moana Nui will be right back.
Good evening and welcome to our March edition of our monthly series, THIStory. Joy, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing great and I'm excited. How are you?
It's been a long week and it's only Tuesday.
Right. Monday was 3 days long.
At least. So yeah, I'm looking forward to our discussion this evening and other things that are not work related for the rest of the week.
Right. I am trying my best to live my unfettered, emotionally free and peaceful life. And sometimes I got to look at something crazy and tragic and infuriating and go, and then like move on. You know, like, yeah, gotta keep it going.
Yeah, since January, I think my sympathy is gone. It don't even exist in a dictionary anymore. To quote Major Payne, it used to be between two other words, but yeah, it don't exist.
Mm-hmm. I tell you what, for all the people who may be watching this, whether you're in the Atlanta area or not, if you know about Lake Lanier, you should be following the Lake Lanier official account on Threads because the lake is me, and I am the lake. You know what I'm saying? Like the lake be calling people out on their privilege and their, erasing culture, and also threatening to poison us all, like once a day. I live for the Lake Lanier Threads account, so follow them if you will. But that's one of the things that helps me get through the day. And as you can see from like the boxes behind me, I just moved. Because again, trying to preserve my peace, I realized in my old place where I was living, I ain't got to be here. What did they say? I got an air fryer and a rice cooker. You can't just be talking to me any kind of way. Wrong. And I looked at my finances, looked around, and I was like, this is cool. So I've moved to a different spot where the walls are green instead of gray. And I was excited because I cooked my first meal in my place. Like I've had food, I've eaten here for the last week or so, but this is the first time I pulled out my air fryer, pulled out a bowl, simmered some stuff. It was pot stickers. It's not like I actually cook like from scratch. I reheated some frozen pot stickers in a bowl and then finished them in the air fryer to crisp them off the edges. But that counts as cooking because I altered the statement. Mm-hmm.
So we found all of our kitchen stuff.
No. I still have maybe 2, 4, 6, 8 more boxes of kitchen stuff.
No.
That's the kitchen stuff. The rest, so I unpacked we so off topic. I unpacked my closet and all the stuff in the bedroom. The bathroom is unpacked. Except for maybe one box of shoes that I was like, if I can't remember what's in there, why do I have them? So we're debating on the shoes. I have all my paintings are still boxed up. And then like all the stuff in my entertainment center and books and everything still boxed up because I don't have the hooks to hook them on because I just moved. And so between being out of town and getting a flat on my car, I can't seem to go back and forth to my old place to pick up all my stuff. So leave me alone. Do the best I can. Told you I'm trying to preserve my inner peace. You in here trying to make me feel bad because I didn't unpack and pack everything back up in less than a week. Ugh.
Namaste.
Ugh. Yes. Namaste out my business. I'm sorry, that is such a disrespectful thing to do with the word namaste. I apologize. Intrusive thought one. It was uncharitable, and I apologize.
When is the intrusive thought lost?
When I'm getting paid.
And there we go. See, the fact that you had to think about it proves my point.
It usually loses when I'm on camera for work, and they're paying me to be there. But however, there have been a couple times when intrusive thoughts have said, you know what, we doing this today. Mm. But the reason I bring up like having my first meal in the house is because today's 5 minutes in, we're just getting to it. Today's topic on THIStory is the history of food in the United States, cultural things that are both unique and parallel between African culture and what I would call encaptured African culture. And really, yes, the impetus for this was the Netflix show High on the Hog, how African-American cuisine transformed America. Because a lot of the things I'm going to say, I stole straight from this show. So if you really want the whole truth, because I'm going to mess it up. I have ADHD. I don't remember exactly what they said, and I'm not going to look it up either. So if you want to know the truth, check out High on the Hog. It's 2 seasons.
Absolutely.
It's great. But the thing that always came to mind for me ever since I discovered the phrase jollof rice was, ain't that jambalaya? Like when I looked at it and they were like, oh, we do the spices and the meat, that's a goat and blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. Ha, look at this. And I was like, yeah, add some shrimp and that's jambalaya. What are you trying to tell me?
Nah.
And they're like, no, it's completely different. I was like, it's completely not. I'm looking at it. I'm tasting it. You got tomato base. I know jambalaya when I see it, bruh. And what's funny is I had a chance to go to Ghana. I went to Ghana, Togo in February. And I had jollof rice several times. And I'm still not disabused of the idea that it is jambalaya without the seafood.
Even though you've gone to Ghana.
It didn't even have meat in it. Say what?
I say, even though you went to Ghana and had Ghanaian jollof rice, you still just think it's
They both start with a J. Things get lost in translation. Jollof, jambalaya. See how we got there?
No.
Yeah, you do.
So you know that phrase about, the phrase about taking people out the hood, not the hood out of people?
I never left the hood.
Okay.
Don't let the condo fool you. They still put bars on windows around here. But so I also I started thinking about it, and I may be wrong, but I don't believe that rice is really native. It's not. Rice is not native to colonizing European countries. And I put it that way because I don't know enough about like Greece and Russia and everything. But I'm gonna say colonizing European countries didn't use rice. Matter of fact, and this is true, Winston Churchill was the leader of Great Britain when that government took 700,000 tons of rice out of India, causing a countrywide famine in India. And then when India was, of course, asked for assistance from their colonizers, Winston Churchill's response was, it's their own fault. They brought it on themselves for breeding like animals and being so lascivious, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm telling you, I'm hungry, and you telling me you shouldn't be so sexy. What kind of sense does that make? In addition to that, a lot of
makes all the sense in the world.
Right. I mean, but it's giving the Bloods and the Crips shoot each other. So why should we care if we shoot them too? But taking see how much 700,000 tons is, and it wasn't like they did it over the course of British occupation. They did it in 6 months. They basically took all the rice that was made or grown in India and took it to Great Britain. But I digress, because we all know how Great Britain gets down, whatever to the queen. And so yellow rice, red rice, and a few other different varietals of that type of grain grow abundantly across the continent of Africa. Matter of fact, you can see the transition from like Africa to India naturally. Like it grows all along. Now, I'm not saying that Africa took it over there. However, it is not native to the East Coast of the United States. And it was one of the grains that, as people were trading, because trade did happen along the western coast of Africa, they brought it over. And the settlers in the United States who couldn't grow shit. You know why they couldn't? Because the farmers didn't have enough money to make the trip to the new world. And the sub-aristocrats, new money types who did have enough money to come over didn't have any usable skills. Matter of fact, again, I'm going to make a shout out. If you read Black AF History by Michael Harriot, he talks about how some of those early settlers coming to the United States were cannibals because they didn't know how to eat they didn't know how to cook anything, so they resorted to eating each other. Yeah. And it's crazy.
One day we're going to do a history of Thanksgiving. Some of your jaws are going to drop when you hear about it.
Oh, I know all about Thanksgiving. As a matter of fact,
I know you know. Sorry, I know you know. I'm talking about them.
We're going to do a history of Thanksgiving. And I want to show the drunk history clip about when the Native Americans, First Nations took over Alcatraz. It is hilarious. I might just tell y'all to watch that for homework. But okay, so thinking about rice and thinking about the fact that had it not been for the agrarian ingenuity of these captured Africans, North Carolina, South Carolina would not have made it as territories, because that was Carolina gold is a type of rice, and it is heralded as saving the economy of the state in like the early years of the United States, like 1700s. But it's because captured Africans knew how to grow it, how to work with the kudzu, how to work with the land, how to make it work. And they made it work. And they thought, if I make this work, maybe they quit whipping me. They were wrong. But it grew across there. It became as big of a staple in the South as far as crops go. It was right up there behind like tobacco and cotton. Matter of fact, I think it was before cotton. It was like tobacco, rice, and cotton. And the Gullah Geechees, God love them, are so cool because they just like, we're not going to do this. And figured out how to make some quick rafts and got in a couple of small boats and rowed themselves out to the islands just off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina. It's the Gullah Geechee region. And they have a specific culture and language, et cetera, that is a culmination of a few different West African countries. But they are the closest semblance that African Americans have to African original culture. And it's funny because in Togo, when I was there, there's a town called Granville, and Granville is also on the water, similar to what they did in the Gullah Geechee area. When when white folks was kidnapping people off the coast of Africa, the people that ended up in what they call Granville were like, I bet if we go out this water, they're not gonna come out here. And they weren't. You know why? Because none of them swim. You know how many sailors in Great Britain could not swim, but stayed getting on boats? That's why they have all these superstitions about, you can't put this on the boat, don't say that, blah, 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 because they don't need that mug to sink because they can't swim. So, but also you got one port of ingress and egress. If I'm out here on an island and you got to swim out here or take a boat, I see you coming. I'm torching your boat on the way over. So they ended up having their own culture as well. But when it comes back to jollof rice, the makings of a lot of things got passed down. So when captured Africans got to the States, they were stripped of their name, stripped of their culture, stripped of their language, stripped of their clothes, stripped of their children. They take everything from them. But what you can't take away from somebody is their memory and their muscle memory, their recipe memory, their memory for what something looks like or how to do something. Male and female both knew how to cook. And they created something out of nothing. You've got slave owners who give you gruel or old corn or rice with weevils in it or old parts of an animal nobody else wants. And it turns into chitlins, dirty rice. There's a reason they called it that, right? Cornmeal. You know what? This corn is too dried out to eat. Let's just mash it up and mix it with some water, because the Africans had a history of making fufu. You know what fufu is?
I do not know what fufu is.
Okay. Fufu is a pounded gelatinous mixture. Not gelatin is too loose. It's more like imagine if you mix mashed potatoes with a little bit of cheese so that it still had the mashed potato consistency, but it had just a touch of pull to it. Like the starches in the cassava, which is, we'll call it potato. The starches in the cassava have broken down enough to make it kind of a little bit stretchy, and they pull off a piece of fufu and they dip it in the soup, dip it in the gravy, dip it in the whatever, and eat it. Similar to how we take cornbread and dip it in the greens, right? Or dip it into red beans and rice. Same thing. And so many of us want to eat with our hands. This is a natural thing for us to want to do. And we don't know where this muscle memory comes from. This is genetic, right? It's so cool to me. But understanding that, there was a jollof rice. I think it started in Sierra Leone, because I was watching the video that you sent, and
that
I feel like
earlier. Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, and I keep forgetting what the fourth country is that they that they did a taste test. But
right. And obviously theirs is the best.
Mm-hmm.
I still say jambalaya needs to be in there. Like, America has entered the chat.
No, I did find that competition very interesting, which is why I sent it to you earlier today. Because I think the guy was from Ghana, or was he from Nigeria?
Ghana.
No, he was from Ghana. Okay, and one of the young ladies basically was just boasting about how this is the way my mama made it. This is we have the best. Hers got the lowest scores.
Right. It's always y'all. Cocoa Butter is where we're getting this from. The Cocoa Butter YouTube channel. They do this. Who has the best competitions all the time? Always the one who brags the loudest and be trying to diss other people's food gets the lowest score. You know why? Because your taste buds don't work. That's why you don't know what you're saying.
Because the thing that threw them off about because basically
didn't she
three
put
ladies,
some little like pickled garnish or something next to it?
I think hers was the one with the fit. Yeah. Because the last two, one of them had like the fish, and they were like, "What is this fish? Why is this here? We don't need this."
Right.
And then the last one was the one with the pickled garnish, which is funny because the guy, his was just, here's the rice. The competition was rice. Here's the rice. And they were like, where is everything? I can't smell it. It probably not even tastes good. And then all three of the women ate and was like, oh,
yo, he did that. Yeah.
Oops. I may have spoken too soon. And as much as they tried to hate, one of them did. I feel like one of them did.
Wasn't it the same one that had the lowest score?
I think so. She ended up being the one with the lowest score because the other two women was like, all right, it's 8. I'm like, all right. So someone's going to get some nice scores here today.
I saw another one that they did because Cocoa Butter has started branching out to all melanated cultures, and they did Korean fried chicken versus American fried chicken.
Yes,
they acknowledge that American fried chicken. Here's another connection. American fried chicken is really African fried chicken, fricassee, so to speak, because the idea of cutting up pieces of chicken and basically deep frying them in oil, boiling them in oil, comes from the same way they do like escovitch fish. So fried fish, fried chicken, all of that. Deep frying is an African cooking technique. And so even though fried chicken technically, or, specifically, semantically is a African-American dish, it's still an African dish. And when the GIs from World War II, or for the Korean War, went over to Korea, the Black people took fried chicken with them, or at least how to make it, because they got chickens all over. And so let me show you how to fry this real quick. And now, what I love about Korea is they didn't just appropriate fried chicken. They were like, I think I can make this better. Let me see if I can improve on a theme. And they're like, we're going to fry it, but then we're going to take it and fry it hard. Frying it hard, double frying it like that, doubling up the batter, frying it again, and then adding the sauces that somehow coat it but don't make it soggy. That is a skill. And Korean fried chicken is off the chain. But there's a difference in the flavors. Like Korean fried chicken, it's all about the sauce. The garlic sauce, the peanut sauce, the butter sauce, whatever. American or Southern Black fried chicken, it's about the seasoning in the breading itself and on the chicken. Yeah. But the frying,
that flour, it all matters what you put in that flour before you coat it on that bird.
Yeah,
that makes.
And there was actually I don't know if he's Korean or not, but there's a guy I follow on Instagram called Milk Tea Poppy, and he did a soul food plate. And this is the most beef I ever got into on the internet, because Black people love to try to police other Black people and everybody else. He said, I'm not Black, but I got a little melanin, because he had it because he's, light brown skin. And he's like, I got a little melanin. That's how he laughs. And he's like, so I wanted to try to make a plate of soul food. So he did collard greens, macaroni and cheese, fried chicken, and cornbread. And when I tell you he had all of his skills were right. He washed his greens. He washed the chicken. He did the macaroni and cheese with actual roux and cheese, and then put it to bake in the oven. And he made cornbread I think he probably used Jiffy cornbread because he was like, ain't nobody got time for that, which also is a black ass thing to do.
Yeah. Jiffy is the main ingredient in cornbread.
Right.
Don't just use the ingredients in a box. Yeah, Jiffy is an ingredient, not the cornbread itself.
Right. Jiffy and egg and milk and mix it up and cook it. But and we watched how he did the chicken. He mixed it up in like a little bit of hot sauce and seasoning and buttermilk and marinate overnight, and then put seasoning in his flour and came back and did the double dip, double dredge and fried it. Ooh. And so I said in the comments, you might be the all caps, the only one that can come to the cookout because we're going to put you to work when you get there. That's what you did for showing up on time. You know, so several jokes in my comment. But also, you might be the only one that gets to come to the cookout because we're not doing cookout invitations anymore. And you can cook, and you're not a colonizer. I have no beef with you. And like I said, we're putting you to work. All the aunties gonna be sitting on the couch talking about, all right, go ahead and start the greens. Make sure you get some red onion in there too. Like, you know, the bacon grease is in the bottom of the pantry. Like, we're not getting up. We're putting Milk Tea Poppy to work, right?
Right.
I had over 600 comments to my comment, 400 of which were people telling me I was a simp, I was a coon, I was an idiot, I didn't know anything. I need to stop giving my culture away. We need to stop with these cookouts. All you old people are always blah, 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 trying to suck up to white folks. First of all, he's Korean. Second of all, fuck you little kids. You know, I was so done with them, and then other people coming to my defense. I ended up having to he actually ended up turning comments off. Yeah. Right. Because people were coming for him too. But I mean, they don't even read. All they saw was the word cookout and lost their mind and didn't read the rest of the thing. Because a lot of people were like, yeah, we put him to work. Yeah. Matter of fact, come early and clean the kitchen and then start cooking. We're gonna be in the living room watching Young and the Restless or something like that. Like, we were having a good time. Then here come the ignorant youngsters trying to tell me something. Do you know what I do for a living? Should knock you out. But again, connections. Yeah. History of food is what we're here for today. I know I'm all over the place. I'm gonna chalk it up to menopause and ADHD because I just be whatever's coming up. And if I don't say it while I'm thinking about it, we'll never get to it. Say what?
Let me show this real quick before we get completely off track.
Yes.
Let's see here. There it is. So there we go.
Good evening. On the menu, we have the cassava salad, bembere prawns, suya grilled lamb, and the pride of West Africa, jollof rice.
Tell me that don't look like jambalaya.
The best.
Nigerian jollof is the way to go.
Ghana jollof is the best. I would come home from school and I would smell the jollof that my mom was making.
I know where you are coming from.
My mom was like, don't turn too hard because we like the bottom crisp. But as I got older, I started to appreciate the different versions.
Senegalese, we are the original jollof. You're fighting for second place over there.
We're never going to solve this jollof fight.
We bring the three of them together. It's called Unity Jollof Rice. One people, one jollof.
Wow.
Immersive dinners with world-class chefs. Chase Sapphire Reserve.
So Senegal, Ghana, and Nigeria. It's just those three. Mm-hmm. And the unity rice, which is called jambalaya. I'm dying on that hill.
You still gonna go with jambalaya regardless.
Yes, I'm going with it regardless because that's what I think is a unifying thing. Now, yes, there are different spices, different bases, etc. But at the end of it all, it is a rice dish, rice, meat, spices, flavor, and the sauce is cooked out of it. Like, it's not a soup, it's not a porridge, it's not a casserole. The rice is loose, you know. And it's flavored with the whatever broth or base comes from either the meat or the vegetables, whatever that you cooked it in. But it's fluffy and loose, and that's how jambalaya is. Jambalaya is fluffy and loose. Every now and then, somebody will make it more like a steamed rice, sticky type, but it's made to cook all of the water is seasoned with everything, and then it cooks into the hard rice, the raw rice, and it cooks out and it gets fluffy, and you add shrimp. Usually, jambalaya will have like shrimp, chicken, and sausage in it.
Right.
You know, or any combination of those. But the jollof I had in Ghana had goat meat, right? We had jollof in Benin, and I think they had either chicken or I think it was chicken or duck, but I think it probably was chicken because I don't think ducks are very popular over there. But yeah, you take a meat, some veggies and spices and some rice, boil it down, fluff it up, and that is J dish, jambalaya, jollof. I'm gonna throw paella in there too. Paella is the same thing. Yes, because it's yellow rice, but if you live in a coastal town or a seafaring city, like most of South America does, they got miles and miles of livable coastline.
Okay.
You take some rice, you take some broth, and you take some seafood, and you boil it down because paella also is loose. It's not a casserole, you know, it's fluffy and delicious. And you got to remember that all of South America is some weird tridimensional combination of European, African, and native South Americans, Taino, Carib, Aztec, etc.
Right.
And they had rice down there too. And so wherever you got rice, you got something like jambalaya. I'm gonna go out on a limb. This is a stretch, like a Stretch Armstrong stretch. But if you really think about it, it's not the same because it's fried, but fried rice is the same thing. You got your vegetables, you got something that you cooked it in, broth or whatever, and it's loose and you can have meat in it, scrambled egg, shrimp, etc. It's all the same all spectrum, all continuum. And it's all people of color have a meat, vegetable, and rice dish that is loose and flavorful and different levels of spicy. But it's not jollof rice. I'm not trying to say that shrimp fried rice is jollof rice. I'm trying to say that the Asians did it too. Yeah. And biryani might be the crossover right there in India, right? Biryani, same thing. I try to make that hole in this. Say what?
I want to poke a hole in this and I can't right now.
Yep.
Because I see what you're saying is like the process of the rice preparation for cooking, as far as what we put into it, based on regionality, cultural background, and all that.
Yep. Yep, and the spices that are available in the region. You know,
I want to disagree. I can't.
Especially
when you made that leap to fried rice. Yeah, and I can't disagree because I'm thinking about how I just made fried rice a couple of weeks ago from when I go into the office once every 4 weeks, and I hate it when you're right.
I know. It makes my skin glow.
Oh my gosh!
Look at me shine. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating, and I also think it's very telling and interesting who is not included in that connection, because I've never seen anything but rice pudding come out of Great Britain. And that is not a dish, that's a dessert, because they like to put sugar and everything. And there's a reason for that. In a lot of European, and I'm going to pick on Great Britain because I know they did it, but I don't want to cast aspersions on any of their neighbors. To have bad teeth, like rotted out teeth, was a sign of affluence, because it meant you could afford refined sugar. You had money, you eating pastries. And so the idea of biscuits, because they call cookies biscuits, whatever, and pastries and lemon cakes, and I was like, eating cake at all meant you had money. And since nobody was brushing their teeth because they just didn't have the hygienic understanding, meanwhile everybody in Africa is chewing sticks and having clean white teeth. But anyway, they had a tendency. Tony, that's a great point. All these rice dishes that you measure the liquid with your finger, it should be one digit above the rice, whether it's chicken broth or tomato and water sauce or whatever. Yeah, you measure them all that way. Good to see you, Tony. Thanks for tuning in. What was I talking about?
The sugar.
Yes.
And with the British.
Yeah. And so the British weren't using rice as one of their food staples. They were using it and mixing it with like milk and heavy amounts of sugar, overboiling it down to where it became mushy. And that's how they make rice pudding.
Which, by the way, is one of the nastiest things I've ever eaten.
Well, so is beans on toast. That's why they're not included in all of this. They on timeout for abuse. How you gonna How you gonna colonize the world for spices and then still be using
Not
mayonnaise? What's
use
wrong with
them.
you?
Not
Right.
use them.
Y'all just came out the gate wasteful. I'm being real disparaging. I apologize.
No. It's apropos because I remember 10 years ago the great Chipotle debacle of the bay leaf that swept Twitter.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't remember or don't know, this white woman tried to embarrass Chipotle. Was it Chipotle or did she go to like
It was
a Korean?
Chipotle.
Okay.
It was Chipotle because she started the trend where everybody kept posting photos like, yes, why is this whole ass leaf in my food?
Yeah. So yeah, she goes to Chipotle. Yeah, because they was getting like twigs and stuff off the ground and talking about who put this branch in my food. She tried to embarrass Chipotle by saying the sanitary habits here, the hygiene here is terrible. Look at this. I ordered like beans and rice or whatever, and there's a whole like leaf in my beans and rice. And of course, Black Twitter entered the chat and was like, "Fool, that's a bay leaf. People use that to season." Matter of fact, when you get the bay leaf, out of some rice or whatever, you got the most flavorful part because bay leaves are magical leaves. Jack's beanstalk was bay leaves. I promise you, they're so good. I put that shit on everything, right? But yeah, like when I'm making rice and peas, you know what? We can add to the list of rice dishes. So we just talked about all of the rice dishes that are a meal, but then there's some side dishes that also have some continuity as well. But I put bay leaf in my rice and peas, in my curry chicken, in my gumbo, which also has a lot of different roots and everything. A lot of Cajun food comes from Haiti, which means it comes from Africa. And so you get a little bit of French influence, and a lot of French sauces and a lot of French cuisine, cooking, etc., was to mask rotted meat. Because they're like, look, this ham is about to go. Put some cheese on it and double cook it again. Cover up the green right there and serve it. That's why so much French food is covered in sauce. You don't get a lot of sauces on African food. You get a lot of what I would call a gravy, like the meat is cooked in this and makes its own gravy, etc. But you don't get just a béarnaise of egg and oil sauces, the béarnaise, the hollandaise, all of those other sauces, right? Hiding things. But yeah, everybody else has a meat, vegetable, rice dinner dish, and then they have meat and rice and vegetable side dish. Red beans and rice, Hoppin' John, rice and peas. When I saw rice and peas, I was like, this is the driest red beans and rice I've ever seen in my life. But then I realized that it wasn't red beans and rice, but it does use kidney beans, you know? And there's a connection between all of that, because the beautiful thing about the Caribbean islands, it is the perfect confluence of all people of color. You got Indian, you got Asian, multiple different types of Asian, you got African ancestry, and a touch of European, Spanish thrown in there for good measure, since they were a colony. But beautiful people, beautiful food, great drinks, and great parties, right?
Of course, the parties.
If you haven't been to Carnival and the islands, you're doing life wrong. I'm telling you, you got to get down to Trinidad in February and play Mas with Michelle Montano over there in Trinidad. Had a ball, and this was like 2008. But once again, I'm way off topic.
Back on food.
History of food. So we talked about rice and all the rice dishes, and about the fact that African knowledge of how to grow rice saved South Carolina. And to this day, they owe a debt to the Africans that they enslaved to force them to save their little colony. Yeah, so rice around the world. The other thing I want to talk about is we talk about genetically modified foods nowadays, and a lot of, I'd say, European scientists or American scientists think that they're the first ones to modify something. No, they were not. You know, the first recorded example of forced breeding was bananas. The bananas that we eat now didn't start out like that. The original proto-banana, if you will, from maybe 10,000 years ago, looked more like trying to think of something long and thin, maybe more like a long jalapeno pepper. So it was about the size of my thumb all around, and they were thin, and the seed pods took up most of the space. It wasn't a lot of flesh to eat on one of those proto bananas. They looked like long peppers hanging off a tree. And people in this, I want to say it was the Taínos or the Aztecs, I forget, but this is an ancient civilization that noticed that some of them were a little bit bigger than others. And they started to force breed the ones that had fleshier stalks. And they kept crossbreeding and crossbreeding and crossbreeding until the skin started to lighten up, because I think it used to be brown. It went from brown to yellow, changed shape a little bit. And they created the banana until it became an heirloom product. Heirloom meaning the seeds sprout and grow new fruit. Because you can have hybrid vegetables and whatever, where you plant them and they grow, but they don't yield any additional generations. So when the apocalypse comes, because we're only days away, run to the store. When you go looting, make sure you loot heirloom seeds and not just the pretty vegetable seeds. You want heirloom seeds. Yeah.
So that's two things now I know that are not naturally existing.
Mm-hmm. What's the other one?
The lemon.
Yes, it is. The lemon is not natural, and neither is broccoli.
Lemon is not natural.
And broccoli,
an orange and a citron.
Yeah, it's an orange and a bitter orange and a citron. Yeah, and I love them. But lemon is one of my favorite fruits. I used to eat lemons with salt when I was little because I was crazy. Just all day. Yeah, was doesn't apply. Not is. I said I was. I was then. I am now.
Was implies past tense.
Well, was applies to kid. I was crazy when I was a kid. I'm crazy now. But it never ceases to amaze me at how cultures that were colonized and resources dragged out of their local economies, their local farms, etc. Everything's taken away, and how we still made a way out of no way. Whether it's in the colonized regions of Africa, whether it's in the new world of North America, whether it's in Asia or India, what have you, when they're left with nothing, they still make something. And this is where you get what we call, struggle meals. And I think a lot of the rice dishes we just talked about is a struggle meal. Rice can stretch forever, right?
Yeah.
You could take one chicken and 3 pounds of rice and feed a whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that part about being stripped, people being stripped away from their cultures, their homelands and everything. It's something that our generation and the ones behind us are slowly starting to having to deal with, the oral history, especially with food, because everyone has someone in their family, a matriarch, great grandma, grandma, great great grandma, who at some point, because they only taught by observation or by speaking out what the ingredients were, was never written down. And somewhere around our grandparents' generation, even though they passed it down, no one wrote it down. So it's like our parents kind of remember, but not really. Yeah,
there's a reason for that. I was gonna let you keep talking. Go ahead.
So I'm saying that now we're like, our generation and the ones coming up afterwards are like, okay, this is cool. I had it once. I'm trying to remember what was in it, but now there's no way to go back and try to recreate because you're guessing now.
Yes.
You're guessing as far as like you have the general idea. Okay, I know that these 4 things are in it, but it didn't taste exactly like this with these 4 things. I'm trying to figure out what else do I need to add. So now it's experimentation, it's trial and error. It's what else is in there. And now you're trying to call anybody who had a direct connection to grandma, great grandma, who may still be alive, who might remember, if their mind and the mental faculties are still there to say, what did she put in this? How did she make this? You mentioned the jollof. Those people came over here. There may still be, different families have, probably still did jollof. Probably how we got jambalaya to begin with. Someone tried to make jollof and we got jambalaya.
Exactly.
Stateside. So,
Jollof
because
liar.
someone couldn't,
Jambalaya.
because someone couldn't quite remember exactly what all the
Right.
ingredients were. So they
Gumbo
made
and
it.
agusi stew are very similar. But gumbo is more reliable. Again, a lot of it because New Orleans is a coastal town, and you got Haitians who are remembering that heritage, coming to look for family members or coming to look for an opportunity in New Orleans, which tended to be a little bit easier on freed Black people. A lot of that Creole is African. Even the use of voodoo as a religious practice or honoring ancestors practice. When I was in Ghana, they talked about how Haiti held on to that as much as they could remember. And they didn't know that New Orleans had such a heavy voodoo presence. They thought that some of that was made up for TV or whatever. Like, no, because you got to remember, a lot of Haitians came back to the States and they landed in New Orleans. And they brought their food, their culture, et cetera. And what memory they had with them, because they were more recent to African enslavement than the generations that had been bred in the States and had no connection back. Right. But you're right. People try to remember things now. Talking about these young folks and how they like, I don't know grandma's recipe. Why ain't nobody teach me? You know what? If you would stop playing Madden and come in the kitchen, you'd know something. And the reason that it broke down around our generation is because the previous generation had women that they were the first ones to like leave the home and go get a job, you know? Yeah. Like your grandmother probably cleaned houses for somebody and then would come home and cook. Your mother had a job like teacher or nurse or post office or something else like that. And it wasn't until our generation, Gen X, that you started having an abundance or a noticeable difference in the number of women that didn't get married. And women that don't get married don't need grandma's recipe, right? Not that she don't need to know how to cook, but teaching all of the recipes to the girl was in preparation for the wedding, in preparation for the marriage. Here's how you take care of your husband. Mm-hmm. I'm 51. I ain't got no husband. I know how to cook, but most of what I know how to cook, I didn't learn from my mother. I picked up a few things from her. And like you said, she has some recipes that she wrote down and some that I remembered and improved upon, in my opinion. But it wasn't I was her sous chef when I was young because she thought I would get married. So I'm chopping onions, I'm dicing vegetables, I'm cleaning, snapping peas, shelling purple hull peas, and I don't know what else we're doing. Cleaning, like boiling eggs and peeling eggs and stuff or whatever we was making, potato salad or whatnot. I learned how to prep. Say what? Mm-hmm.
I said washing vegetables, peeling carrots.
Peeling carrots, peeling potatoes, all of that. I learned how to do all that, which is a sous chef thing. And like any restaurant, the sous chef is slowly learning what the chef knows. And they may not be passing down stuff by written recipe either, unless it's patented or something like that. And so a lot of the women who were cooking for their families in the 80s, their sous chef is at the mall. The sous chef is at Six Flags, right? At the movies.
At the mall.
Right. Ain't trying to learn nothing, which is why so many women in my generation don't know how to cook. And if you don't know how to cook, you can't pass it on to your children. They at grandmama's house eating like kings and queens, but they also are playing games and whatnot. And they're not in the kitchen trying to be a sous chef. And Black women stay petty. Oh, y'all don't want to come in here and cook? I ain't telling nobody this recipe, man. It'll die with me. And that's real.
And that's one of the things I've seen, like, and again, it's been addressed in various shows that I watch. Recently, Equalizer with Queen Latifah, because the daughter and the aunt went to a restaurant that was run by a family friend, but the current generation had taken over the restaurant because the elder who did all the recipes had passed on. So they're trying to figure out, well, why is such and such no longer on the menu? Well, when grandma and grandpa died, they took that recipe with them. They never told me. And you see them in the back of the kitchen, they're doing trial and error, trying to put it together. Like, all right, I remember tasting this in it. I remember tasting this in it. I'm pretty sure they use this. So they're trying to recreate the dish so it can be back on the menu. And through trial and error, after a couple of hours, they figured out what it was. Yeah. But we're trying. I do see some, not a lot, of the generations behind us trying not to get to that point. So they're basically talking to the elders to like write stuff down.
Right.
And yet
they deboning these recipes up out of
right. So, but you still have some resistance by the grandparents because they're kind of like, well, I don't want this written down. Like it's still some guarded secret type thing. Like if it's written down, it'll get out and never, it'll be abused or misused in some way, which I get, raisins and potato salad, but
they would absolutely, not only that, it would absolutely be abused, but think about Uncle Nearest, right?
Yeah.
It'll get out and somebody will discover that this particular sweet potato pie recipe is the best ever. And next thing you know, Kaylee is selling sweet potato pies, taking over Patti LaBelle's profit margins because she stole a recipe from somebody's grandmama that she ate at their house one time.
Right.
I remember specifically this article coming out of California. These two white women had gone down across the border and they had the best tortillas they'd ever had. And they asked the women, because it was a family-owned shop, they asked the women, what do you do? How do you make these tortillas? And the women were like, hell no, we're not telling you. This is a family secret. We are not sharing. Why would we do that? Why would we give you something that we know we can sell? This is our family's livelihood and our legacy and our history. And they were like, okay, so sorry. They came back to that restaurant early the next morning to watch through the windows and watch those ladies prepare those tortillas, wrote it all down, figured it out somehow, mostly. Took it back to the States and opened up, I think it was called like white people tacos. Like they leaned into the fact that they can't handle spicy food, but the tortillas were excellent. And in their About Us section, they talked about stealing this fucking recipe from some women down in Mexico, and they got sued for it and they lost, which I'm very happy about. How you going to write about the crime you committed and that you're making all your money off somebody else's idea and think you're not going to be held accountable?
Tell them on yourself. Give credit where credit is due.
That's why a lot of people don't share their recipes, because every family has somebody's recipe that is like James Beard worthy, right? What were you about to say?
No, credit. As I jokingly often say, that's the only thing they invented.
That they invented was credit.
Was credit. Something else was invented. Something else is created.
They will absolutely patent it for you. Yeah. Matter of fact, Hidden Valley Ranch. Did you hear about this?
No. Hold on. Wait. What's this, Tony? Ever given someone a recipe and not specified a particular ingredient? Not leave any ingredients out. Just
okay. Tony, you a real one. Appreciate you. I'm here to help the people.
But not Hidden Valley Ranch.
Hidden Valley Ranch. So Hidden Valley Ranch was invented by a black man. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yes.
I just thought that was just that. Hidden Valley Ranch was either the salad dressing or those little packets that white people threw on food because they didn't know how to cook. That's how I saw it.
So yes, creator, Hidden Valley Ranch creator, Stephen Henson. Okay. Let's see if I can pull up this picture right here. This is, see if I can get him to come up on.
Send it to me in the chat.
Okay.
See if I can pull it up real quick. He said Stephen Henson.
There. But yeah, just look up Kenneth Stephen Henson, Hidden Valley Ranch. He was a plumber turned cowboy in the early 1950s. He retired from being a plumber because they made good money, bought a ranch out, I want to say, on the West Coast, like California. Plumbing he was working in Anchorage, Alaska. So again, hazard pay plumbing. So he made a lot of money. He retired. He moved to San Marcos Pass, California, and bought a ranch and called it Hidden Valley Ranch. And him and his wife ran like a little bed and breakfast in there, but it was mostly about the restaurant because he created a collection of dry ingredients and cream and whatever, and created Hidden Valley Ranch salad dressing, right? And it was only there. It was only available at the ranch. But then it was so popular, people would come just to get the salad dressing. And so he's like, well, let's just make a packet of dry ingredients. You mix this with, milk and mayonnaise or whatever, and make Hidden Valley Ranch dressing. And that is where it comes from. So the little Hidden Valley Ranch packet that you have is exactly, there he is. Yes.
Wow.
And from the 1950s to 1972, he owned Hidden Valley Ranch and sold it to the Clorox Company in 1972. They used to use it as a party dip with the dancing cowboy has grown under Clorox intro to Hidden Valley Ranch brother today. Yeah, so Hidden Valley Ranch is not just, but when we say ranch dressing, that's why ranch dressing is so good, because Black people invented it. And we think of it as like something that white people love. And I think even they think that they invented it, and they did not.
Mm-hmm.
This is why it's so important. This is why we have the show called THIStory. That show, THIStory moment this week, is a Black person invented hidden ranch dressing. Yeah.
Ranch dressing, period.
Calling it ranch dressing implies that Hidden Valley Ranch was the first one to do it. All them buffalo wings y'all be eating with ranch dressing? Yeah, Black people did that. Black people invented buffalo wings too.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, invented buffalo wings coming out of naturally not the animal, but the city. And it was a Black man. He befriended a white man who said he was going to help. I don't know the whole story, but I remember hearing about it. He befriended a white man who said he was going to help him get it started. The white guy patented the recipe, right? And then cut him out. And he died in relative obscurity. And it wasn't until his family started to resurrect his legacy and say, hey, this Black man invented the buffalo wings, the buffalo sauce, all of that. And white guys took credit for it. That used to be his friend. And this is why your grandma don't want to share her recipes, because she knows what'll happen. Next thing you know, your friend that you think is super cool, Chad or whatever, will be like, yo, dude, your mom's, collard greens are awesome. What she put in them? Next thing you know, there's some gentrified collard greens on the canned goods aisle. And now Glory Greens, which is, I want to say, a Black-owned brand, is going out of business because Chad had got a hold of your mama's recipe. But it really, the recipe stopped being passed down when women stopped getting married at the rates that they did before.
Yeah.
Or stop knowing how to cook, period. I have friends that asked, one of my friends, God, she'd be so sad if I told the story, but she shall remain nameless. She asked me if I would show her how to cook my seafood pasta. Now, my seafood pasta is one of those things where it's a little bit different every time I cook it, because I cook it from memory and not from any written recipe. I'm looking for color and smell. So I cook it for myself so I can tell her what's in it. Then she says, write down the recipe. Then she says, can you help me come over and help me cook it? Sure. I get there, and basically what she wanted me to do was cook it. Why? So she could feed it to this boy she liked.
No.
I was like, you catfishing motherfucker. How are you going to take my cooking and feed it to this dude so he thinks that you know how to cook? You should be ashamed of yourself, young lady. She served.
But see, therein lies the rub, though, because you can't make that all the time. You got to diversify as far as cooking goes. So what? Every time you have this boy that you like over, you're just going to keep making seafood pasta?
Exactly. That's expensive anyway. You better learn how to make some cheap Parmesan or whatever.
And I don't care what kind of seafood it is. Even the cheapest seafood is more costly than chicken.
A pound of shrimp is 3 times the cost of a pound of chicken. So go get that dark meat. That's another reason that a lot of cuisine uses what I call leftover meat, because dark meat was greasy. It had a little bit more cartilage and stuff in it. And it wasn't until people realized that broken down cartilage added flavor and a little bit of thickness to a broth or a soup, and that dark meat had more fat and more flavor in it. So cooking with dark meat chicken, cooking with chicken thighs in particular, or chicken legs. And matter of fact, the leg is considered the best part. Even in Korean fried chicken, the leg is the thing, right? But chopping up a thigh and cooking it yielded better flavor profile, more umami, flavor. But wife was throwing thighs away because greasy dark meat. Ugh. Let me get this dry chicken breast. Even today, they eat more chicken breast than thighs. Meanwhile, curry chicken, I think just about every melanated ethnicity cooks with dark meat.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I will admit, if I'm using chicken in a recipe, my go-to is chicken breast, because
it's easy to cut.
it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying
But
to do as little work as possible because I know the endeavor it takes to do cooking. I'm trying to minimize all the hard work I can for the actual cooking of the meal.
Right.
So when I tell people, yes, I know how to cook, is not to say that I am a gourmet chef. No, I know how to cook for myself primarily because I live alone. And two, if I need to, I can entertain someone and cook for them.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Ben.
Is that Danger Mouse mask that he's got
on? MF Doom, I think.
MF Doom. I knew it was somebody I remember from what do you call it? Cartoon Network. MF Doom. Okay. Nice to meet you.
But yeah, cooking is, and I'm not going to, I am mostly self-taught because anything that I am interested in, I will go online to look up, and I will purposely find recipes that I know people of color have submitted to say, hey, this is, and you can find them and you can tell.
There's actually a website called blackpeoplerecipes.com.
Yes, I have used them from time to time. I've definitely used them. Now, sometimes there are things that like I have had I'm not ashamed to admit this, the apple pie cheesecake, Dutch apple cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory. That recipe is online. So yes, I did.
The Oreo cheesecake from Mix. For those of y'all that don't know, Mix was a very famous diner in Atlanta. They were rumored to be the originators of the fried chicken salad, where you take fried chicken tenders, cut it up, put it across the salad. They was doing that in the 80s and 90s. And it got really popular where everybody else had it around like the early 2000s. So we think they originated that. But Mix had an Oreo cheesecake that to this day, son, nobody's ever been able to touch that cheesecake. And that recipe is also online. I found it. I followed it, which normally I don't do. Usually I'll be eyeballing shit. I'm talking like measuring out with a knife to get the exact amount of everything. That cheesecake came out so doggone good. My friend's mother, who is a baker and actually an excellent cook, was like, send me this recipe because you put your foot in this. She goes, whatever they mixing in here is perfect. And it's just cream cheese and sugar and and like vanilla and some eggs, and you bake it in a steam bath. But it's dense but not heavy. Yeah.
And that's the thing I always want to say to people, because I don't boast my own cooking other than the fact that I know what I'm doing. But I always tell people, if you want to know how well your dish is, if someone asks you for the recipe, that's all you need. If someone pretty much comes to you for the sweet potato cheesecake, I will make a few every year around Thanksgiving for wherever I'm going, and inevitably someone will always hit me up. What's the recipe?
Wait, you gotta put up this joke by Ben down here. He's like, my kid asked me, have I ever told you I love when you cook that? And I was so proud to finally get some recognition. So I said no. And he said, then why do you keep doing it? He meant, why do you keep doing it? Have I ever told you I like this? No. Then why are you trying to kill me?
Look, and it's okay to not know how to cook. We're not shaming anyone for not having that skill. It is a learned skill. This is not something you come out the womb, smack on a button. I know how to cook.
Right. Now, I will say, we will not shame you for not knowing how to cook, but that doesn't mean that we will not clown you for not knowing how to cook. So this is specific. It's not even specific to Black people, because I've seen Koreans clown each other. I've seen them snap on each other, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I'll be thinking Koreans are our cousins. We here. Meg Thee Stallion and Namjoon all day. Every house I go to, I end up on the grill. Right. Because they're gonna put you. That's what you get for showing up on time. Right. Should have been a couple hours later if you didn't want to cook. You know, if you get there early enough, you on sous chef duty. You chopping onions and whatnot. But what was I saying about the Koreans?
Clowning each other.
Clowning each other. So if you don't know how to cook, we will clown you as we teach you. And understanding that the gentle, the ribbon, the talking bad about you, the talking about how that time you burnt water, etc., is all a part of the aggressively disrespectful love that we'll put on you, because we love you enough to teach you how to do it. We'll be patient with you. We'll show you all of that. But we're gonna talk about you the whole time. and then nobody's off limits. So if you also live in Atlanta, you will remember when Chef Keisha Lance Bottoms made macaroni and cheese one Thanksgiving and messed up and put it on the internet. And she was talking about we're getting ready for Thanksgiving. You know, is this my macaroni and cheese? And she moved into it, and it looked so dry. And she's like, I'll overcook it a little long. You know, we're gonna add a little bit more something to loosen up. It'll be fine. And it was gonna be fine. We've had that before where you cooked it a little too long and it kind of dried out a little bit. We dragged our favorite mayor we dragged her from Thanksgiving to Christmas.
Yep.
We dragged her this past Thanksgiving for some macaroni and cheese she made like 2-3 years ago. And she's very, you know what, I'll give it to her. She's very like forgiving and accepting of the ribbing and everything. Because she understands it's not because we don't love her, it's because we do.
Right.
She feels
and
like
we don't want
family
to do
to
that
us.
again.
She got a cooking show now. You know that? Like it came out of the way we dragged her that she ended up with a show of people come and bring their recipes on, etc.
Nice. Nice. Well, you do know that we have a friend that if there's a house party going on, we will put her on bartending duty. She has free access to all your alcohol to make drinks.
Which friend is this?
Oh, she commented earlier.
Yeah, that's right. That makes sense because she is a bartender.
Uh-huh.
She be mixing good drinks too.
Yes, she does.
Love you. Love you. And so back to history, because this is a history-based show. We talked about the timeline and the parallels between everything from jollof rice to jambalaya to shrimp fried rice to paella. It's all a rice dish with meat. You got a similar rice side dish with because rice and beans is a staple. Rice and beans in all of South America and Mexico, right? Rice and peas in the Caribbean. Hop and John, which is rice and black eyed peas, which is different from rice and peas. And we're going to talk about colonizers in a minute with that, because I've seen them try to remake rice and peas and they don't know what it is. And they put black eyed peas or field peas in rice because it said peas. And now you got this green and white monstrosity because they don't know what it is. Red beans rice is another variation of rice and peas. And
right.
if you don't recognize that we all have the same collective DNA history and therefore muscle memory, you know, it's all the same. It just depends on the kind of water you got locally, whether or not you got access to certain vegetables and spices locally. We said the food my kids know about now, I didn't know about until I was an adult. But yeah, they have actual palate. They're not eating government cheese and fish sticks and sardines and crackers. Right. However, I still like sardines and crackers. Something in my multiple degrees says, don't you buy them damn struggle meal sardines. It has to be salty too. So what?
I have never had sardines.
Sardines are actually, they look like minnows. They're small, little tiny fish. And
I've seen them.
I've
just never eaten them.
The interesting thing about sardines, I don't know why I know this. I think I was on one of those how it's made videos, but they get packed in really tight and they're like cooked through because they're so small. Again, they're like little minnows. They pack them in so tight and they, coat them in oil inside the little tin can that they come in, where you peel back the top and get your sardines out. But the reason they pack them so tightly is because the actual sardines are cheaper than the can they come in. And so to save money, they will pack that can tight and charge you more per ounce or whatever and save money on the can. If they added more oil, the more fish they can get in there, the more cost effective it is for them, because the fish is the cheapest thing. And so rather than give you 10 fish and waste all this money on additional cans, they're going to put 35 in this one can and tell you that it don't go bad because they packed it in oil. Yeah.
If you've had a real Caesar salad, you have had.
He's right. They do tend to put minced sardine meat on Caesar salads.
Interesting. Well, I guess I haven't had a real Caesar salad then either.
Probably not, because most restaurants don't want to take the time, and that's something else we can talk about is the history of seafood. It used to be in the dressing. Caesar, sardines in the dressing. Ew.
The Caesar dressing.
Mm.
That would make sense.
It does have little black bits in it. I always thought that was just big cracked pepper or something. And this is what we talk about. People don't know what something is and they try to remake it. Yo, I saw this girl. I want to say it was a joke, but I don't think it was.
I hope it was. The way you started this, I hope this was a joke.
She was trying to make collard greens.
Oh,
have you seen this?
Is this the one who like washed them in the tub?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
She was trying to make collard greens. She didn't wash them at all because I think she didn't even rinse them off a little bit, but she didn't wash them. She just kind of rinsed them and shook them off. She cut them, and then she took. No. She didn't do any of that because it was bag greens, like the pre-cut bag. She took maybe 2. I do not know where the Caesar salad originated, Ben. So if you got the history, let us know because we'll add it to the show, and we will read it out loud. So as many comments as you need, go ahead, let us know. But she took the 2 or 3 bags of collard greens already cut up, and she goes, "You want to get some turkey meat in here?" So she took the collard greens. I think she added like water in the. Oh, Caesar. Yeah. Now I did know he's right. I remember this story. The Caesar salad dressing started in Tijuana, Mexico. And people think that it's Caesar after like Julius Caesar. No, Cesar. Yep.
Eurocentric, always messing something up.
Always messing something up. But there's more to it. So feel free to keep typing. He's probably typing right now. But what was I saying before that? I was talking about
Ben.
It's fine.
Oh man, sorry, Ben. Sorry.
Yeah. But anchovy is also another little tiny fish. It's very similar. It's easy to have mixed that up. Sardines. Yeah. I've only ever had sardines on crackers, but they're so small and their bones are so malleable that when you boil them and put them in a little oil and cure them, if you will, people just eat them bones and all. And it's not even worth trying to get them out. But it's not like a real fish bone. Like, if you have salmon out of the can, those bones in there are really, really soft. It's the same type of thing and on a smaller scale. So you just get a cracker and some hot sauce and go to town.
Yeah.
Seafood.
Collard greens.
The collard green story. Thank you, Tony. So she had clearly been to somebody's house and seen collard greens with smoked turkey meat in it or whatever. But she don't know how to make it. So she gets 2 or 3 bags of collard greens cut up, maybe 2 bags. She covers it with water, puts it all in a crock pot, first of all, covers it with water, not broth, regular water, puts like some bell pepper and onion in there. Well, okay. And then takes a package of like boar's head smoked turkey breast. And she cuts it up. And it was like, it looked almost like pulled pork turkey, like smoked barbecue, like smoked breast. And she tore it up and everything and put that in there and then just put the top on with a little salt and commenced to letting it cook in the crock pot. And then she came back to it and she goes, "Oh, this is looking good." She goes, "Maybe we use a little too much of the turkey breast. First of all, what the hell are you doing? And secondly, this isn't the meat that goes in here. We just talked about a few minutes ago, dark meat. That same goes for turkey as well. Turkey wings, turkey tails, turkey necks, but not turkey breast, right? But she had clearly seen somewhere somebody had collard greens, a finished product that had turkey meat in it. And if you take some collard greens and put it on somebody's plate, you don't recognize that ratio is off, that the piece of meat you got is special because 6 other people didn't get no meat at all. And so she's looking at what's on her plate and try to recreate that in a crock. But first off, you don't make collard greens in a crock pot.
You
right?
don't.
Can you?
You can.
Yes.
You shouldn't.
Absolutely not.
No,
because
you shouldn't.
So there's processes to everything. Cooking your onions and garlic and bell pepper and mirepoix, whatever you might be cooking in there to start it off, all that stuff needs to be sweated out to get the flavor out of it first and foremost. Then you start to build that stock up from the ground up. Then you add your broth and not water, right? Chicken broth, vegetable broth, or chicken bouillon clue, something, right? Then you add your dark meat, usually already pre-smoked. Smoked turkey tail, turkey neck, smoked pig feet, turkey right? Wings, smoked ham hock, but smoked because they're going to add another smoky flavor. Then you let that boil. Put your greens in, and you let that boil on the stove along with maybe a bay leaf. It depends on how you feel. It's not mandatory, but you got your seasoned salt, Lowry's. You know how we feel, Lowry's or Tony's or something like that. Your garlic powder. Even though you got garlic in the base, you're gonna add a little more garlic powder. You're gonna add maybe a little bit of red pepper flake if you want it to be a little spicy. If you don't, you can just add hot sauce at the end. You're gonna put in a little bit of oregano, a touch of sage and thyme, just a little, you know. If you don't know how to measure those things out, you could also put in like a tablespoonful of Italian seasoning. It'll be a little bit off, but it won't be bad, right? I'm giving y'all straight dope right here. Vinegar, Ben, is a controversial thing, and this is no longer history. Now this is a cooking class. So
we have segued.
Putting vinegar. So there's I can make this history. Putting vinegar in your food, whether it's or putting something acidic in your food, is a way to make sure that there's no bacteria or parasites or whatever, especially on uncured meat, which is why when you see somebody cooking like doing fried chicken, why so many nations that have melanated skin, nations of color, people of color across the world, wash their meat, right? Anywhere in the Caribbean, they're going to tell you to wash that chicken with lime juice, lemon juice. Some will wash it with vinegar. Some will wash it with apple cider vinegar. You know, some will leave it to marinate, and there's usually some lime juice or something to marinate overnight, or something that is going to give it a little bit of an acid curing taste. Like even ceviche, if you think about it, ceviche is cut up raw fish that is cured. Sushi, also lemon juice cured or cured in some sort of acidic sauce, acidic juice. So vinegar in the greens, you put meat in those greens, or at least they used to. Throwing a tablespoon or two of vinegar in there was in a way to make sure there were no parasites, and also add a little bit more depth to the flavor. Some people will say, and we used to pickle our peppers, right? Peter Piper, pickled peppers and all of that. But pickling them in vinegar, also, when you're trying to get that hot sauce. We use hot sauce now, but I remember my grandfather using pepper sauce. And it was pickled peppers in vinegar, basically. And it would be basically spicy vinegar. And he would put that on his collard greens, on his eggs, on his whatever. You can still get pepper sauce in the stores, but that's how the vinegar got into the collard greens, and it became something that you added and you didn't know why, but that's the flavor you grew up with. So some people put not a lot, a couple of dashes, tablespoon of vinegar in their greens. It also can cut the bitterness of the greens, which is weird because you're cutting bitter with bitter, but it works for some weird reason. You could also just as easily use lemon juice if you didn't have vinegar. It's all about the acid. And there's a lot of science in the background of how that works. But yeah, that's how people clean their meat. So when they tell you to wash the meat, you can rinse it off in the sink. And thank God that you did that. But if you really wanted to wash it, you would at least run it in some, you would coat it with some sort of acidic juice, orange juice, lemon juice, grapefruit juice, vinegar, lime juice, anything that is pH negative, pH of, like 4 or lower, or 5 or lower, something like that. The chemist in me came out real quick. But like I said, I was going to make this history. So yeah, the idea of protecting yourself from nature. If you are religious at all, or think of a higher power, everything you need on this planet is already here. And so you don't need we wouldn't need like vegetable wash if we didn't put pesticides on them in the first place. We created a problem and then we fixed it. Looking at you, America, but protecting yourself from pests and vermin, etc. Peppers. I learned this on the Discovery Channel or something, or maybe even something about plants. But it started off where they were talking about if you have, say, an abundance of pests, eggs and whatnot growing in your plant. Sometimes you might water a plant in the house and next thing you know, you got gnats everywhere because those eggs were in the soil. Red pepper flakes in the soil, because the plant itself is not going to be allergic to it or not going to try to absorb it for nutrients, but it will kill or drive off the vermin that are in the soil. So if you got a problem with gnats, put some red pepper flakes in the soil, so when you water the plant, some of that capsaicin gets into the soil. It doesn't affect the plant. Don't overdo it. I'm not telling you to mulch the plant with red pepper flakes, but a tablespoon or two, and depending on how big the plant is, in the soil, and it'll keep it from being run over. But the same thing happens internally with humans in our gut. Spicy food keeps you from gestating parasites. You might have had a tapeworm at some point in your life, but if you chased it with Texas Pete, it probably didn't make it, right? And so spicy food not only does it relieve stress, induce like serotonin or not dopamine. That's why you get drunk. Like, you ever eat something so high you get goofy? Yeah. Eat something so hot, spicy that you get. I think they call it getting drunk off the pain. Right? That was in a song. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, spicy food is good for you. It helps your digestion because it's coming out. Oh yes, and you will find out. Right? But it's something that somewhere along the way of the diaspora of people from the continent of Africa out across the world, we kept that knowledge. Spicy food or peppers will save your life, you know? And so, in conclusion,
I'm not giving up spicy food.
No, why would you give us spicy food? I'm never giving up spicy food. You know me. I'm adding red pepper flakes to pizza and everything.
Yeah, I know.
I have like 5 different spicy things. I got gochujang because I do like to try to cook Korean food every now and then. Gochujang. I got Scotch bonnet pepper sauce from Grace's. Grace's is my favorite brand of like Caribbean sauces and spices and whatnot. I got my Tony's, which doesn't really count. Tony's isn't spicy, but it's just something you have in the house. Texas Pete Crystal for my Louisiana people, and Louisiana hot sauce, which is different. And what else do I have? I got a hot sauce that my best friend Erica. Come on, Ben, with the red pepper flakes on it. That's what I'm talking about. Me and Ben right here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ben. No, see, he knows about the crystal hot sauce too. It's a different thing. And then just straight red pepper flakes that I have, you know. So, but my best friend bought me this thing called greens and ghost. And I think it was like maybe a touch of collard green juice. And not like cooked collard green juice, like juiced collard green juice and vinegar and ghost pepper seeds that they use to make this clear, cloudy sauce. I put a touch of that on something I was eating and had to get some milk. And I'm not no punk when it comes to spicy food, but 2 or 3 drops was a mistake. That's something that I should have put 2 or 3 drops in a pot of collard greens to kick it up. It was a lot. Mm-hmm. But we had a question here. I don't want to side rail the convo, but I'm curious about the Moana Nui in the name. James, I'm gonna leave that to you since you've known Moana longer than I have.
Moana Nui is for the names of the creators, Dana Moana, of our wonderful network that we broadcast on. So they are of Hawaiian descent, and it is of the Hawaiian, Samoan, and I forget something else that is a part of that, but Maori? That is where the Moana Nui. I'm sorry?
Maori?
Yes. Cultures, and that is where the Moana Nui comes from.
If you move us to the side, you can see the picture in the background is representing all those different cultures. You know how to move us to the side? There you go. Yes, this is her and her people. And all of the different kings and queens and everything you see and dancers and tribal people and everything in the background is representative of all the different cultures that are, like we've been talking about tonight, different and unique, but similar in some parallels across nations, which I think is so cool. Okay, Ben got some Hawaiian on. Okay, Ben. Nice. You know what? We could do another whole little piece because when you talk about perfect blend of cultures, fried rice is big in Hawaii as well, and so is Spam. And Spam being big in Hawaii is some more colonizer bullshit. So we all know that Hawaii used to be a sovereign nation.
Yes.
It's not just a state. It's not like they were running around petitioning the United States for like citizenship. They were like, we good. We really don't want you here. And of course, the United States is like, no, we're going to make it better. Shut up and let me help you be more like us, and try to strip them. It became illegal to speak the Hawaiian language, to use Hawaiian customs. They tried to conform them to white American ways, took their children, same way they did with the Native Americans, took their children and tried to force them into being Christian and speaking English, and destroyed the Hawaiian culture. And the last queen, whose name I don't want to butcher, so I'm gonna ask you it's like Lana Kelani. It sounds like that, but I know that's not exactly right. Yeah, but the last queen was imprisoned for a good part of her life and held hostage by the United States until they agreed to be a state. But they never acknowledged, the relinquishing of their own culture. Now they're trying to preserve what's left of their it's still being colonized, but that's another podcast. They're trying to preserve what's left of their culture. But this was a sovereign nation. They had food. They had all they needed. And the Americans came in and messed up their ecosystem. Dole pineapples. It was a big Dole factory there. They would bring in people from China, I believe it was China, to come and work those fields, as well as bringing in people from like mainland America, whatever. But kill off all the other crops, because pineapple was big with exports, and the pineapple fields, none of that is supposed to be there. And it ruined the ecosystem there. But then, they needed a protein, and we were coming out of World War II. Spam was created for soldiers because it has a very long shelf life. And there's a phrase that says an army moves on its stomach, meaning you got to keep your troops fed. So Spam and a lot of canned goods, as a matter of fact, from an American standpoint, are supposed to be for wartime rations.
Mm-hmm.
But they had so much of it. And then once you started manufacturing this stuff, the companies making money off of this, they're not trying to give up their money. So they found new ways of using it, which is why Spam was one of the staple foods that they gave out to people that were on food stamps or WIC or SNAP or whatever. And they flooded the markets in Hawaii with Spam, to the point that now it's a staple of Hawaiian food. You're going to get Spam fried rice in Hawaii. And I've had it, it's delicious. But still, it's again, struggle meal colonizer roots, like so many other countries. Mm-hmm.
I am Abigail Kanoaki Kikialiki Kawana.
Whatever you're saying is wrong.
I'm looking at it right now. That is my best pronunciation. I am sorry for messing it up, but she passed away in December 22.
Here we go. Queen Liliuokalani was the last sovereign of Hawaii. Yeah. Spam has something to do with the Japanese too. You know what? I'm about to find out. I did not know that. So let's see. Spam and Japan.
Ben dropping science in here.
Which is that's what this show is about.
It is. Thanks, Ben.
Spam is popular in Japan, particularly in Okinawa. Again, we got U.S. troops there because it's a readily available protein source post-World War II era, evolving into a staple ingredient in local cuisine and a symbol of American influence. Because after we bombed the shit out of Japan, clearly you're not eating radioactive land animals. So you got these cans of Spam. And Okinawans embrace Spam, adapting it into local dishes like poku, tamago, pork and poku tamago, pork and eggs, or chanpuru, mixed stir fry. Yeah. Spam became a symbol of American goods and services, representing a taste of America without being in America. And it also, spread to Hawaii and everything else.
So the entire Pacific
There's
Rim basically.
Spam Jam Festival in Waikiki. Wow.
No.
Yes, we're going. But yeah, like I said, post World War II, Spam entered the chat. Right. Next thing you know, it's all over the place. And all it is pressed ham. Matter of fact, now that I think about it, there's another, I believe he's Korean, just because his name sounds Korean. His online persona is Cookim, Cook IM with an underscore, I believe, after it. And he does a lot of he does a lot of recipes that I try to follow because he makes it real simple. And he made Spam. He took, I want to say, like some shaved ham, and he boiled it together, and he put it in a blender and turned it into like a paste. And then he cooked that down he froze it in like a block or shaped it some kind of way. And then he boiled it in that shape to make it hard. And then he cut it. He's like homemade Spam. Because that's all a Spam is pressed ham. People like to make you think it's some sort. It's hot dogs. It's the same thing. Hot dogs are processed in the same way. They all extruded into a shape. It's the same thing. You just make a different texture. Mm-hmm. I don't like hot dogs, but I like Spam, Growing up, Spam sandwich on buttered toast, and it would be the buttered toast that had like the little dots of butter baked into the toast. Yeah. One piece of toast cut in half with a piece of Spam. Boom, go to school. It's great. So coming all the way back around, though, one of the things that we continue to see is that the planet provides what you need, whether it is gastrointestinal relief through peppers, protecting your gut health through vegetables, giving you everything you need as far as like vitamins and protein, everything just off the land, helping us understand how to get the most out of food, rice being a staple to feed everybody everywhere. And you know what? I started off talking about jollof rice, and I mentioned fufu earlier, and we never got back around to it because menopause brain. But when I had fufu in Ghana, there was Togo had a version of it, or Benin had another version of it that was similar to fufu. But all of them do basically mashed cassava paste or dough, if you will, that you can use. It's not a bread like Ethiopian bread that you have, the little spongy bread, whose name I forget. Nigiri? No. Tony, tell me the name, because Tony knows if she's still in here, of the Ethiopian bread that you have. Injari. I forget. But anyway, it's not that. When I touched it, I was like, this is mashed potatoes. And there are, it's a tuber. Cassava is or kava is a tuber. And they take it, they mash it, they turn it into injera. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And so the same thing that they do where they're taking their fufu and putting it and using it to sop up soup, etc. We do the same thing with mashed potatoes and gravy. We just put the gravy in the mashed potatoes and eat it with a fork, And again, there's so many things that are so similar. Have you ever watched Tasting History with Max Miller? No, but it sounds great. And if you haven't watched High on the Hog on Netflix, we started off the show at the beginning before you got here talking about, that was the impetus for this show today, is talking about the history of the High on the Hog talks about the influence of African Americans on American cuisine. But I wanted to take a little further and say, we all the same. Everybody with melanin in their skin has a connection to rhythm, drums, and tasty food, and figuring out how to feed a whole family with a bag of rice and some chicken bones. It's freaking awesome what we do, even the idea of making soups and stocks of the Holy Trinity, the mirepoix, your Trinity, whatever you want to call it, celery, bell pepper, and onion, or green onion, bell pepper, and white onion, but it's going to be three things in those families. And you start off cooking whatever you're cooking, you start off with that. And then whether you add meat or other vegetables, whether you add broth or water, or even in some cases, coconut milk, is going to depend how that's going to end up being a dish. Mac Miller, a YouTuber, finds, okay, I will look for that. I'm look for Mac Miller. I mean, I'm talking to my computer right now, so I'm sure it's going to come up as a suggestion on Google. Of course, the next time I open my YouTube page, right? But
because the tech is always listening.
Say what?
The tech is always listening.
Tech is always listening. But yeah, like it's something I want you all, whoever's watching this, I want you all to think about when you have a dish. Where did this come from, and why do we eat this? You know, from a history standpoint, and what led us to having this. You know, because you can just say, "Oh, Hawaiians like Spam," or you can understand the tragic and abusive history of how they ended up with it. You know, if you really know the history of Okinawa in Japan, I want to say Hiroshima and Okinawa were not necessarily view themselves as Japanese.
No,
they
don't.
were kind of doing their own thing, you know, which is even more tragic that they got bombed like they did. And they were surrendering when they got bombed. It's something else they don't always talk to you about, right? America be doing some bullshit all the time. All the time. And I'm whispering because I don't want to go to jail because it's very scary to do that thing right now. I got stuff to live for. Mac Miller is a rapper. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Max Miller. We're gonna everybody look for him. But the other thing is, especially for African Americans, I'm talking to us right now, and to some extent Caribbean Africans as well, because when I was in Ghana, the thing that struck me the most was one of our tour guides as we were going through some of the some of the places where people were held in those dungeons. He talked about the fact that these are family members of people on the continent. And when they were taken away, folks looked for them. It wasn't like they just gave us away and never gave a care or thought about us again, no matter what the Nigerians might try to make you believe. They really looked for us. The Ghanaians were like, we missed, every family tree has a branch that is missing and they don't know what happened to them. And this is the analogy he gave us. He goes, imagine if your daughter is going off to school and you get her ready, you get her prepped, and she's going to go do a major presentation or whatever at school. And, she goes there, and then while she's at school, you hear that something happened at the school. And you don't know what happened, and nobody will tell you anything, but she never comes home. Would you rather that they bring you the body of your daughter? She's dead, but you have the body. Or would you rather never know what happened to her at all? And that was a question that he posed to us. And we were like, at least give me my daughter's body so I can get some closure. Exactly. He goes, we never got closure. The people that went looking for the lost ones, as they call it, they got lost too. They would say, oh, you should go check in Portugal and see if maybe they're over there, and then get got. Now you're on the boat from Portugal to the States. And we all have suffered at the hands of colonizers. And it has led to us figuring out how to thrive in the midst of our oppression. And that turns into jollof rice. Even though jollof does not have oppressive roots, it predates oppression, but jambalaya, paella, other rice dishes as a means of feeding a lot of people with minimal protein or minimal, ingredients. Anything that's deep fried is delicious. Using spices. So Western medicine is just now understanding the full health benefits of like bitter melon tea. But when I was in Ghana, they were like, we've been using bitter melon to control blood sugar for 200 years or 2,000 years. I don't know why y'all don't use this. Y'all over there taking pills and whatnot, and we got everything we need right here. So I think I've run out of things to talk about. And so we're going to try to bring you another episode of this in a month. And so the reason this is called THIStory is because we like to talk about hidden history. And even though we started off talking about food, we did get into some of this is why it is the way it is. This is where this comes from. And I'm not going to be able to give y'all all the answers, but what I hope is it gives you enough aha moments to want to go look up some of this stuff yourself and not let people convince you that white people created Hidden Valley Ranch dressing, right? Or buffalo wings. Honestly, if it tastes really good, they probably didn't do it. As a rule of thumb, we did that. We being people of color. And so with that, I will stop talking and and James, I'll let you wrap up. Anything you want to say to the people?
We're sorry we missed last month. It was short and there was a lot going on.
Right. I was out of the country, most of it. Yeah.
So we don't plan to miss another month for the rest of the year, but
wait, cucumber sandwiches. Yes, man. They invented cucumber sandwiches, mushy peas, beans on toast. Look at my face. I will tell you what, I went to London and I asked for the best fish and chips in the area, and everybody directed me to this fish and chip stand in the square. And it was a line that was maybe 30 people deep. And I waited for like 50 minutes in this line to get my fish and chips. And I finally got my little piece of fish in my little cone with some French fries around it, because that's what they call chips. And I bit into Long John Silver's. You know how mad I was to have waited an hour and goddamn Long John Silver's? That's exactly what it tasted like. It was just battered cod, no extra flavor, beers and salt in the batter to make it a little fluffy on the frying, and some French fries.
Long John Silver's even still exist anymore?
I don't know. But it was terrible. I mean, it tasted like Long John Silver's. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't wait an hour in line good.
Right.
And some of the most famous British dishes are Indian food. Chicken tikka masala, butter chicken. Yeah, that's Indian food. So for the Brits to be saying, we have delicious food like butter chicken. Butter, you stole that.
Right.
Yeah.
Other cultures have come and improved upon your bland little food by adding flavor and seasoning and spice. You know, those things you tried to steal 6 centuries ago and don't use.
And and thinking about what I mentioned before about the earth giving you everything you need, the history of tea, the history of taking herbs from the land and boiling them to get whatever essence out of them and drinking that. Tea isn't just about flavor. Tea has restorative properties. Like I mentioned, in Africa, they've been using bitter melon fruit pods. Before they get ripe, you take the bitter melon, you cut it, you boil it, and drink that. You can just sweeten it up or whatever, but that tea helps with blood pressure. There's tea for digestion. There's tea for menopause, because I bought some from the H-Mart store here. There's tea for mood swings, because there's different herbs that help with these different things. The British took it and just made it an afternoon snack. And they only did black tea, which none of the properties are there because they burnt it all to death. So they be ruining everything. They're ruining everything. Absolutely. But yeah, they can have them cucumber sandwiches. Don't nobody want that.
No, nobody at all. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this month. We will see you all next month.
Yes. Next month, what do you want to do next month? You want to do music? Or do you want to do like art or what?
Art in general. It can encompass music too.
Yes. Okay, we'll do art in general. All right. So next month, this history, art.
Absolutely. Yes. So until then, go dig about some art.
Peach tea. Yes, peach tea is delicious. But that is an American thing. Yeah.
It is. I prefer green and orange, but yeah.
I prefer chai spice mix and hibiscus. Again, in the islands, hibiscus. So if you've ever been to a Caribbean restaurant and they serve you sorrel tea, that is hibiscus, or sorrel punch. That is concentrated hibiscus tea with a little bit of cloves and allspice added and some brown sugar boiled down to be like super sweet. But it's hibiscus tea. And they turn it into a punch. Now you take that sorrel punch, you add a little rum to it. Now we got a party.
You know what? See, no, save it for next time.
Yes. I could almost call that art, but
that is art.
It is. I appreciate y'all showing up and hanging out with us here. So we're going to be back at the end of April, right?
Yes.
It will be back in April to do another show, and that was going to be about art. And we're going to talk about, we're going to get into some museums. We're going to get into some museums next time. Yeah. And the hidden history of all of that. Yes.
Spoilers. The beginning of Black Panther is very important.
Yes. Yes, it is.
All right. Until then,
yes.
Thanks for coming out. God bless and good night.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off, called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if you put Hawaii in a perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will. We will.